I fell in love with R2D2 when I was 11. I saw him on the big screen, 77. And, he had a personality. He was a character, a personality. He was more than a machine. And ever since then, I wanted to build things that are more than machines. And I'm not saying we have R2D2 yet. We haven't saved the universe. But with the PackBot, the military robots disposing of IEDs, one time a Marine brings one of these robots into the robot hospital in Iraq, and he's like, "Can you fix it? Because it's in pieces." And it turns out that he didn't want it just replaced. He wanted this one because he had hash marks on the back of its head, that his disconnected head, that had how many missions he'd been on. The Roomba has people buy it absolutely as an appliance. They take it home, and the only thing they've had experience with that acts like that is a pet, and they start naming them. In fact, one Georgia Tech survey found that 66% of the Roomba users named their Roomba. There were these insectoid robots, and they looked amazing, right? They were like crawl around with legs and stuff. Gets a lot of attention. And so they won the cover of, Scientific American and, Discover and all these places. So being very naive, just out of school, we're like, there must be a business here, right? Everyone's so excited about this. Which I like to tell young entrepreneurs, don't drink your own Kool-Aid, right? Our first plan was to put the first robot steps on the moon. Now, I'm not saying we were wrong. We were maybe just 20 years ahead of our time. I can remember early on, Consumer Reports wrote an article about the Roomba and said, this is crazy. This takes longer than vacuuming myself. And we were shocked, right? It's like, why would someone watch the robot vacuum do the whole job and think that that's any kind of a comparison when you don't have to do any of it, right? You don't just let it do it on its own. It's the mentality. Robots actually work best today at the beginning by reimagining the job and how to do it. Like Roomba's one example, right? You do have to pick up the floor. I had complaints about that. Why can't it pick up the floor for me? Why can't it do stairs? If we had taken those feedback and incorporated them, we never would have got to market.
We know commercial farming, they have to spray chemicals, and then for us with robotic lawn mowing, one of the things that I tell people is, when you actually look, and I don't know if you know this or not, but a lawnmower, you can take 11 Toyota Camrys and put it next to one high idling zero turn, and that zero turn lawnmower makes the same amount of carbon emission as 11 of these Toyota Camrys.
Wow.
Okay? Because vehicles have all sorts of emissions control, and catalytic converters and stuff. Lawnmowers don't. So one of the things that I tell people is automation is not only a lot of times a redundant labor saver, it's also great for the environment. It's great for where we live. They're quiet. Butterflies and bees, I'm sure, don't mind your robot moving around inside that garden.
I think like everything else, things can be a double-edged sword. On one hand, many times I was the only woman in the room, both in technology conferences and in the military conferences. But on the other hand, people always remembered me as the robot lady.
Yeah.
So I stood out. So, everything's
you got it good with the
good and the bad, right? And looking back, to start a company, not have a business plan, or not have a realistic business plan, etc., I'd say that's probably not the best idea, but it worked out, right? So sometimes you just got to be in it to have the pieces of luck you need fall into place at the right time. So just getting out there and getting into the fight, can make it happen. Even if you don't have that brilliant plan, like, the guys from Google, for example, had up front. My job has always been my passion and my hobby. So I'm very fortunate in that working hard is something that I've always been in that flow position. That's a philosopher, Csikszentmihalyi. He says the way people are really happy in their lives, if they get into this situation where they're so busy at something that time flies, right? And when you're developing a robot, when you're getting it on the market, it's you get so into it that you're in that flow condition.